It is one of my favorite things to talk about, and that is the Fort Collins, Northern Colorado real estate market update. So if you are watching this, you are actively paying attention to the real estate market in Northern Colorado. That's Loveland, Greeley, Fort Collins, Johnstown, Windsor, Timnath. There are so many parts of Northern Colorado. Technically, that is Larimer and Weld County, around 750,000 people when you take into consideration both populations. But Fort Collins population around 180,000 people. Larimer County, around 350,000 people. We're going to talk about a lot of different things. We're going to go into our normal prices of properties, median sales price, days on market, inventory of homes, new listings, under contract, closed sales, which really talks to us about some leading and lag indicators of the market. Then we're going to look at how is Fort Collins doing regionally, comparatively to Denver, Loveland, or Denver, Colorado Springs, Boulder, Greeley. And then also, how are we doing versus 2019 and 2009? 2009 was the worst year for Fort Collins real estate. The median sales price was down roughly 2.5% to 3%, depending on what numbers you use. That being said, we will jump right in. I will share my screen. If you're watching on Instagram, feel free to jump over and watch on YouTube. All right, here we go. Let's go this way, actually. Yeah. Median sales price, Fort Collins, for a residential detached house. Looks like it's kind of a sharp decrease, which it is from August. But when you look at the rolling 12 months, we are actually up 0.6%. One of the biggest things that I want you to notice, though, is that we have been at $624,000, or roughly right around there. And since October 2022, 603,000, we are only up so since November of 2022, we are up $14,000. That is almost 3 years of a plateaued median sales price. Now, the ADP jobs report just came out, and we'll talk about how that might impact the real estate market, sooner than later. But one of the things they did talk about was our annual wage growth for those staying in their job was 4%. Those that are relocating to new jobs, up 6%. So what the plateau of real estate prices in Northern Colorado has done over the last 3 years has allowed wage growth to increase a little bit to try to ease the burden, which is Fort Collins, Northern Colorado home affordability. Let's see here. Let's look at new listings onto the market. This is a number that we'll look at. It's definitely something that says, hey, oh shoot, I didn't have the graph that I wanted to show. There was a great graph out there that I sent to my team that says we are actually beginning to converge those that have 6% or higher interest rates and those that have sub 3% interest rates. The people that have 3% interest rates, they've had those for 3, 4, 5 years, and life events have taken place, and they've had to decide, we got to get rid of, we got to have more space, or we got to have less space, and said, we can parlay the equity that we have and hopefully buy down interest rates, hope to refinance, and we just need the bigger or smaller home, or home in a different location. So these golden handcuffs have been removed. So we are seeing new listings increase, year over year, rolling 12 months, up 14.2%. So again, people are interested in selling. One thing to note too, that I'll talk about at the end when I do a recap of all this, is homeowners have a record high amount of equity in their homes. There are 49% of mortgage holders have over $300,000 of equity in their home. So they don't have to sell. This is, again, more of a decision to sell. And so for new listings, up. Homes on for sale on the market also up significantly. And we'll look at here shortly the comparison between 2009, 2019 pre-pandemic, and 2025 numbers, just to see how are we doing. Under contract and closed sales are down. So inventory's up, supply's up, demand's a bit down. It's not crazy, but demand's a bit down. Closed sales are up though a little bit, up 7%. I don't know if it was a direct correlation when we had a little dip in interest rates. Interest rates dipped all the way to about 5.75% to 6% in early September, mid-September, and then kind of bounced once the Fed came out with their interest rate cut. A lot of the times, there's chatter. There's so much technology out there today. The interest rates are acting for the future, not for today. So when the Fed is predicted to do their rate cuts, mortgage rates go down in advance of that. So when it happened, we actually saw interest rates increase, which was super, interesting to see. Unfortunate, because it was nice to see those interest rates coming down. The 10-year Treasury is about 4.1% right now, which is really a leading indicator of the 30-year mortgage. Days on market down 3.8%, but still at 50 days on market. Again, we're going to look at 2009 versus 19 versus 25. I think those numbers are really interesting because, even myself, I've been actively brokering deals since 2013 and have been in a strong market. I bought my first fix and flip, though, in 2009, the worst market in Fort Collins history. I bought my first fix and flip in that year. And so I've experienced kind of the time it can take to sell a house comparatively to what the industry has come to expect over the last 10 to 12 years. And that is like, it goes on the market, it goes off the market. Well, that wasn't the case, as you'll see in 2009. Yes. Treasury is still higher by a whole point than any quarter since quarter 2, 2011. Yes. By the jobs report and everything like that, it sounds like those are going to be cut sooner than later. All right. Now, this is what I'm excited to show you guys. Let's see here. I'm going to remove my screen, make sure I don't show you anything goofy. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. That is, and I'm going to do full screen so you guys can see that really nicely. Here we go. All right, so I wanted to look at how did Fort Collins do comparatively to our surrounding areas, our larger markets in surrounding areas: Fort Collins, Denver, Colorado Springs, Greeley, and Boulder. Now, Boulder's, I put it on here because it's still interesting to see, but they are a whole nother animal. They not ultra luxury, but luxury homes. And one thing that you'll see on different price points in Fort Collins is luxury home buyers are kind of not immune to the market by any means, but they kind of don't let it dictate what they're going to do. If they're going to buy a house, they're going to buy a house. If they're going to sell a house, they're going to sell a house. So we'll see that here shortly. And that's kind of the Boulder for us. But median sales price, only Denver and Colorado Springs had a little bit of a drop. Boulder had a big pump. Now we're talking like $1.2, $1.3 million median sales price. Homes for sale, everyone's seen an increase. The largest, though, is in Greeley, Colorado. More homes sitting on the market. We're looking at, just so you guys can kind of see this too, we're looking at percent increase year September versus in 2025 versus September 2024. Days on market, Denver that's a big leading indicator. If we see days on market really start to shoot up, it'll then have more homes sitting on the market, and that's when we'll start to see price pressures. But Fort Collins, actually, again, like we showed, actually had a little bit of a dip, but most of our surrounding areas had increases. Under contract, demand, correlation to demand. Fort Collins, Denver, the only place, Greeley and Colorado Springs had a little bit of an increase. Closed sales, though, again, this might have been a little bit of a strike while the iron's hot. Interest rates were down. We saw that in 2024, where interest rates dipped a little bit and mortgage activity, buyer activity, shot up. So we are really watching that and seeing how closely, and that's one thing that we'll talk about in our kind of summarization, is there are tons of buyers that are sitting on the sideline waiting for interest rates to drop or affordability. So it could be one or the other, interest rates or home prices. Home prices are staying relatively steady. That's not to say that if inventory skyrockets, that prices could come down and then buyers come swimming onto the market. Now, how did different price points behave in Fort Collins? This was, I thought, really interesting. The lowest price point and the highest price point had large increases this year versus last year. So the lower price points, people are definitely interested in making moves, buying, and getting on the market. But homes for sale, so if there's a ton more closed sales in this price point, a little bit fewer homes for sale. The price point that's kind of purgatory is 450 to 650. Those homes are sitting. The days on market are increasing, and the closed sales have decreased. So those are the people, from my perspective, who are probably in the first time home buyer category, may have a family, so need a little bit bigger space, but are directly impacted by affordability. So that 450 to 650 price range is really kind of purgatory for homes right now. So, I'm actually doing a seller and buyer webinar this evening. And one of the things that I'm going to talk to them about is pricing your home effectively and having it as turnkey as possible. Because if these people are already maxed out on their budget for down payment and monthly mortgage, they don't have the money for the updates and renovations. So they're having to buy houses that are essentially turnkey, move-in ready. They'd rather finance the repairs by way of buying a nicer turnkey house rather than buying one that needs all the repairs that with the money they don't have. But new listings are up across the board. And what's interesting is, again, that $0 to $450,000 price range. If people have houses, they're like, let's sell them, let's get them off our hands. There's good demand for it, and potentially move up, parlay that equity into higher priced homes. Okay, moving on now. Now I wanted to look at 2009, our worst year in Fort Collins real estate, Great Recession. 2019, pre-pandemic, and 2025, up through August. So that was the only data that I had for this specific data set. So we'll get jumping into that. Blue line is 2009, red line is 2019, yellow line is 2025. This is probably the thing that I look at the most when I consider the health of the Fort Collins real estate market. Is our inventory is nearly down, by 50%. So they had 2 times more inventory in 2009 than we do currently in 2019 or 2025. So again, that's going to be what's really interesting about that, one thing to consider is in 2009, let's see here. I'll Google it real quick. Fort Collins population. All right, in 2009, our population was 140,000 people, about 141,000 people. And in 2024, we had 171,000 people. So 30,000 more people, but yet our monthly active inventory is down by 50%. So that's kind of like we have more people, less homes available. So I am watching that closely because I do think, and I have actually seen inventory can spike actually quicker than I previously once thought. So inventory can spike pretty quickly. When you're talking about new homes, new listings, when there's 225 new homes that are hitting the market, and if the days on market increase double, so if they go from 30 days to 60 days, all of a sudden now we have an extra 500 homes on the market because those 225 sat, an extra 225, and it only takes a few months of that for inventory to get up to where we were in 2009. So definitely watching that, but right now it's kind of a nothing burger. Sold listings, this is kind of interesting. This shows demand during that time. So you can actually see in 2009, our demand passed both 2019 and 2025 for a quick moment in July, but now they're kind of similar that they were in in August. But a pre-pandemic, not Great Recession market in 2019 had much stronger demand, nearly 100 more homes sold in the month of August than did in 2009 and in 2019. So demand is definitely not that strong, but yet not that far away either from 2019 pre-pandemic levels and 2009, the Great Recession. Like, imagine buying, I bought a house in 2009. I've never really told this story, but I bought a house in 2009. It was a fix and flip. And when we got done with it, we put it on the market and it just sat. And it sat and it sat. And it was frustrating. I was concerned. We did a price reduction. It ultimately sold. But it was, definitely a long journey. And that's one thing that we need to understand is, the days on market, which I'll get to here shortly. Median sales price. I just thought these were interesting numbers. Relatively flat for each year. You don't see any huge jumps on either in any of these years. You started out at 600. You ended at 625 or so for August. Now, this is on a monthly basis. So like the rolling 12 month would probably be right at about $600,000. But just, shoot, that's 2009, every 10, and then another 6 years, double the price type deal. So I would say, I don't know if every 10 years is healthy to double price, but it's the rule of 72 at what interest, annual appreciation. Fort Collins has seen a historic annual appreciation of about 5.5%. Historically, we had some crazy years in 2020 and 2021, and then 22 through 2025, prices have remained relatively flat, probably getting us closer to that annual 5% average that we're, used to since the 70s. Here we go. Average days on market. So again, sellers in 2009 just put their home on the market and it sat for 100 days or more. And that's one thing that we're talking to our sellers about right now is reframing our mental model for selling a home, because it is increased from the 30 days that homes were sitting on the market in 2020 and 2021. Even 22 and 23 were, pretty quick sold homes, but now they're sitting for 15, 25, 30 days on the market before going under contract and having to have price reductions before that. But still, you are not having to sit on the market for 100 plus days. So not too bad comparatively. Okay. That is all. I'll take it off my screen. All right, to wrap up, but to kind of go through, here are some thoughts that I've got on the overall market, and just going to go through these. I put these bullet points. So, the market feels a little bit uneasy, but definitely not collapsing. Some listings are moving quickly. The ones that are in a good neighborhood, priced well, turnkey, absolutely, they are moving quick. There was a home that a client sent me. She said, we really like this house. It went under contract quick, and it was closing quick. So homes that are priced right in a good neighborhood, turnkey, moving fast. Otherwise, homes could definitely be sitting on the market. Even if they are priced right, if they aren't in a good, neighborhood or area, or backing, or have some functional obsolescence backing to a busy street, no garage, they will sit, even if they're priced appropriately and turnkey. So it's kind of a baking of all three of those are what makes the houses move quickly. We actually have strong buyer behavior. We've had strong showing activity on all of our listings. Some of them are moving relatively quickly. Some of them are sitting, but still have buyer activity and decent feedback, but they have other homes to look at and choose from. So the buyer journey is a little bit longer these days than it was in the past. They're not urgent to make an offer. They are going to go back for a second, third, fourth showing before placing an offer. Days on market are gradually increasing. We are watching that. Median sales price has remained relatively flat at $620,000 for nearly 3 years. What is 610 to 624? That's 14,000. So it's just over 2%. So it's like 2.2% increase from 2022. So relatively flat for the last 3 years. One thing that I'm watching, Colorado State University, it is a tier 1 research institution, but there is a lot of headwinds at a federal level because we have a lot of clean energy projects that are going on at CSU, as well as grants. That is also true about the city of Fort Collins. So what helps strengthen a real estate market? The jobs and local job market and economy. So definitely watching that. Overall, though, Fort Collins continues to be a place of solid labor economics, low unemployment. Colorado in general has decent unemployment, but Fort Collins outperforms that. So overall, our employment is remaining strong, and that is the key indicator for a healthy real estate market and economy. Fed rate cuts. There's going to be another meeting at the end of October. They're pricing in at this point one more rate cut, a quarter a point, excuse me. But it sounds like there are some that are saying we need more, some that, inflation's something that we got to watch. We don't know what tariffs are doing. So at this point, interest rates on a 30-year mortgage are between 5.875% and 6.325%. One thing that's tough to avoid, but it's all over the place, is the doom and gloom chatter. Especially, you're listening to noise right now, and I hope that it's coming from, or at least is providing a perspective. I'm a real estate agent in Fort Collins, Northern Colorado. I make my living off of selling homes. Okay. That's my baseline. Do I want the real estate market in Fort Collins to crash? Absolutely not. Am I an investor and have a rental portfolio in Fort Collins? I do. And I want that to remain strong. Do I have plans on selling any of those? No. So that's my perspective. And when I come on here, it's probably generally more positive than it is negative. Because again, I'm a real estate agent, make my living off of selling houses. I have an investment portfolio in Fort Collins. I just bought a big warehouse in Northeast Fort Collins. I would like Northern Colorado to remain strong and healthy. But be cognizant of the doom and gloom out there. It is all over the place. It is an easy sell. I am on YouTube. I know that if I put a negative headline on my YouTube video, it is going to have a ton of clicks and not decent watch time, because people are really truly wanting they want to hear what supports their narrative. There are a lot of buyers on the sideline right now that are wishing and wanting for the market to collapse so that they can come in and buy. I'm not saying that's a wrong thing, but it supports the narrative they want to believe. So I would say just be cognizant of that, the doom and gloom chatter, but be aware that, of who's talking to you and what their take is and why it might be that. Inventory and days on market are slightly up. Prices remain resilient. Builders, man, if you are a first-time home buyer, or, honestly, we have a client under contract on a $1.5 million Toll Brother home, definitely not a first-time home buyer, but the incentives these builders are offering is pretty strong. Like, if I'm a buyer right now, I am absolutely considering buying new construction. Interest rate buy downs. They buy blocks of loans that they can offer you, like Richmond Homes offering 3.99% mortgages. We just had a buyer close on one just about 2 weeks ago that was on a new build with Richmond, and the entire thing was predicated off of it making sense on a monthly mortgage basis on that 3.99% mortgage. Backyards getting finished, price reductions, appliance packages. It is definitely something these builders have they have record high inventory levels when you look at different eras. So not all-time record highs, but nearing all-time record highs. So if you are looking at buying, a builder is a great place to consider. And we would love to negotiate with you. Builders, there's a little bit of a misconception, and sometimes most builders, love working with real estate agents. There are some that, for whatever reason, they want to get that deal signed today, and they'll talk to you. But we find that negotiating on behalf of our clients absolutely is a huge benefit. We know exactly what they're willing to offer, about how much, and can push that. So reach out to us. We can take you along that process and hopefully get you into a great new home or existing home. Let's see here. Sellers, you're having to have a mindset shift. So homes are going to take longer to sell. List to sell ratio is at 98%. So even after you've done a price reduction, you're still going to have to negotiate probably up on median 2% of the list to sale price. So be prepared to negotiate, and price reductions are common. If you are not priced right, not getting the showings, that's, again, one thing to understand. There are buyers out there. They know the market. They've probably been watching it and looking at it for a long time. And if your house is overpriced, they're not going to tour it. If your house is priced right, or at least priced right for the neighborhood, but maybe not perfect for them, they'll tour it. So you got to look at, am I getting showings? If so, am I not getting offers? Then it needs a price reduction. Am I not getting showings? Price reduction. Am I getting showings, but the feedback on the price is strong? Well, that's going to have to be determined. Why is it not selling? Is it some functional obsolescence that we cannot fix? And the only way that somebody's going to buy this, turd? Nah. But how is somebody going to buy this house? By lowering the price. So be ready for price reductions if you don't have it priced appropriately. Going into the market, pricing strategy and proper preparation of your house is utterly important. Making sure that those baseboards are painted, the floors are clean, no smells, no odors, deep clean, declutter, depersonalize, the 3 Ds. Get your curb appeal locked in, have all those small projects, light fixtures, faucets, things that, aren't high dollar values, but have high value returns when somebody's walking through your house. Take the time. Don't just slap on some lipstick and get it onto the market. Let's see here. Buyer landscape. Small rate dips are having dramatic impacts. So we saw a 25% spike in mortgage applications when the interest rates dropped into the low 6s, high 5s, and then kind of ticked back up and mortgage rates decreased. So buyer affordability is absolutely what's driving this, which if you're a buyer in today's market, see here. If you're a buyer in today's market, I'm going to get to your comment here in a second, FPP Tech. If you're a buyer in today's market, like we're telling like Izzy, she's considering buying a home right now, and our entire team is pushing her. Like she's going to buy the house. Like I would have to imagine, we're pushing her to move now before interest rates drop or come down any lower and a slew of buyer activity comes onto the market. Because now again, you need to, if you're going to buy a house, you have to plan to own, lived in that house for at least 5 years. If your plan is shorter than 5 years, plan on renting or consider renting. But if you're going to live in that house for 5 or more years, between, historic annual appreciation, probably going to get back up unless the market absolutely tanks. And I just bought a $2 million warehouse, so I hope that doesn't happen. You're going to have some principal pay down. You're going to have and potentially some home appreciation, and the ability to, essentially the economy to increase, people's wages to increase while your expenses remain relatively fixed. Let's see here. Wages are growing 4% year over year, not as fast as they need to be to keep up with affordability, but they are growing. Let's see here. Rental market. Super interesting. Actually, I'll get to this comment real fast. I want to get to this comment, which was, we are sitting on a 2.5% mortgage from a 2021 refi, and hearing how great of a deal 4% hurts my soul. Yeah, it does, man. I just, like I said, I just got out of one of my condos, and it was at, I think it was in it might've been at 4.125% because it's a condo and an investment, which you're kind of like double hit. But most of my properties investments are in the 3s, and got a 6% rate that I exchanged for that condo. So yes, I agree. How great of a deal 4% hurts my soul. That's funny. Now, okay, rental market. That's kind of an interesting thing to look at, because we had multiple owners whose homes didn't sell this year turn their homes into a rental. Accidental landlords. Bankrate put out a quote that said nearly 46% of mortgage residents are equity rich, with a collective value of over $35 trillion in home equity. And the average mortgage holding homeowner has approximately $302,000 of equity in their home. So they don't have to sell. They can either choose to stay in their house. They can turn it into a rental, take that 2.5% mortgage. And I'm sure the rental rates on that make sense to keep it as a rental and an investment if you can't sell for the number you want to sell for. And how do prices meet where you want to be on your home over time? We saw on those markets, on those graphs, that 2009 median sales price around 200,000 some odd dollars, 2019 $400,000, 2025 $600,000. So if you hold on to that property for years, there's going to be some management, some maintenance, upkeep, all that kind of stuff. So don't get me wrong, there is time requirements and financial requirements, but if you don't have to sell, they're turning it into rentals, which we got an email today from one of our groups that we're a part of, landlords, property managers, and they said, is anyone experiencing vacancies and slower growth, softer demand for their rentals? There could be some reasons for that. The occupancy rules of the U+2 are gone. So there are 4 or 5 people living in their homes versus the 3 that was only required, and those 1 and 2 bedroom units aren't getting as filled up. ADUs are getting built. Accidental landlords, people who can't sell their house and are turning them into rentals. So there is some inventory coming on for the rental supply, which again, we talked about earlier, if they decide to sell their house this next spring, could be a slew of inventory coming on the market then. So something to watch. And that's kind of a shadow inventory. Second-time home buyers, rentals that are never meant to be a rental that turns into a purchase, and homes that are just sitting vacant off the market, being prepared to sell. We're definitely watching some of these kind of like not so readily available pieces of data, kind of, because it's not really a piece of data. It's just more of like anecdotally, we are seeing people pull their homes off and turn them into rentals, and the rental inventory increase. All right. So overall, the market's definitely cooler, not collapsing. Affordability is the main constraint. So whether prices come down or interest rates come down, one of the two is what are holding buyers on the sideline. We are watching CSU as far as it being the grant funds, clean energy space, 8,000 employees, 35,000 students. It is our major economic backbone in Fort Collins, as is UNC for Greeley. Definitely watching that. As a buyer, make sure that if you're buying a house, 5 years. 5 years is your time horizon. You've got to be in there for 5 years. And if not, seriously consider renting or change your plans so that you have to be in there for 5 years. As a seller, regulate your market expectations, price well, prepare your house to get on the market. And that is all I've got today. I will stick around for a couple minutes. I actually think my battery might be dying. No, I got 6% on that bad boy. So if you guys have any questions, now is the time to ask. I would love for you guys to ask. And if you guys are considering buying or selling, investing here in Northern Colorado, give my team and I a call, text, or email. We have helped hundreds of families relocate to Fort Collins. We've got tons of listings, tons of buyers that we work with, and we absolutely love that opportunity to earn your business. We do have a buyer seminar this evening at 6 p.m. 7 p.m. and a seller seminar at 7 p.m. So if you want to go through what that process looks like as a buyer or a seller here in Northern Colorado, would be happy to take you through that. Additionally, there's going to be some changes on the old YouTube channel. Excited about it. I hope for the better. And with that being said, that information will be kind of released here in the near future. So super excited about that. And otherwise, I appreciate you guys watching. I don't see any questions. Let's see here. Which new build out not in FOCO are you most excited about? I think Prairie Song. Prairie Song by Hartford and Windsor is really interesting because of the growth of Northeast Windsor and Severance. You're going to have a King Soopers there soon enough. You're close to Fort Collins. The builders there, I think there's Richmond and Hartford, but you got mountain views, decent attractive price point. Rain Dance is always a fan favorite, no matter what. Riano Ridge in Loveland. There we go. That's the one that Izzy's considering buying at. Lennar and Toll Brothers, but right along the foothills, Northwest Loveland. Definitely an exciting new build that's not in Fort Collins. Other than that, there's quite a few. My team's done a bunch of deals down in Johnstown with DR Horton, and Wellington just got a new development approved, a 300-acre development by Sage Homes. So, but those are probably it. Prairie Song in Windsor, Rihanna Ridge, and Loveland. I do like Timnath Lakes, as always, in Timnath, and Rain Dance, as always. Okay. That is all I've got today. I appreciate you guys watching, as always. If you guys have any questions or comments, don't hesitate to reach out. Send me a call, text, or email. Would be happy to help you in whatever way I can. Until next time, everybody, have a great day.